Hey everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Tactical and Practical Day. You know what we do here. This is where we roll up our sleeves and we use the software. Unlike our strategic day where we talk about our long-term plans, our objectives, and our key results, on these days, we're actually going to see how we can use the software to benefit us and everyone else that's part of the project or product rollout. This video is the second video in regards to our stakeholder analysis, our stakeholder mapping, matrix, and communication. And so last time we covered all the different stakeholder analysis and sensitive pieces of information, such as influence level, engagement. Here, we're going to be looking at a Confluence whiteboard page where we can list all of our stakeholder communication preferences except for the sensitive information. That sensitive information is just for the internal team only, so the internal team is aware of influence levels. This is for the wider audience. Anyone that has an active engagement or investment in the project will be directed to this page. So speaking of a Confluence whiteboard page, this is one of the new features in Confluence that was rolled out in Teams 2024. This is the opportunity to use a whiteboard that you can use a digital marker on and actually draw on. You can have this information bi-directionally updated inside of Jira if you're keeping track of everything in Jira, which is what I would recommend. And there's a lot of additional templates on top of the Confluence pages that were already there. So this is a stakeholder communications template that you can quickly publish and edit to your stakeholders. So the first thing you're going to notice is just a very simple title, letting everyone know what this page is. It is for stakeholder communications. The next is going to say who it's by. This is very important because you want whoever this is by to be someone that everyone knows. You don't want this to be someone that's in one of the offshore teams that's 13 hours away, that when the stakeholders come here, they see and they say, who is this person? Maybe I'm not supposed to be on this page. You really want this to be someone that they are familiar with or someone that works with someone that they are familiar with. The next most important thing is what are the goals for this communication page, for this communication plan? And so this is just a very information box. You can edit this box to say, one of the goals of this page is to create trust and transparency with all of our stakeholders. One of the goals of this page is to drive consistency. This is where everyone can see all the different meeting cadences, people's preferences, and when those meetings are. That's very important. That's why it's right on top. You want to have maybe 2 to 5 goals, very simple, nothing complicated. The next is kind of like the star of the show. This is where you're going to list out your stakeholders. This is where you're going to put number 1, John, number 2, Jane, number 3, Jack, et cetera, et cetera. And like the examples here say, you might say, so this is John, and John prefers to be updated monthly, versus this is Jane, and Jane wants a weekly bullet point email. And it's okay that this is available for everyone to see because this is not sensitive information, unlike what we did in the analysis where we talk about influence level. That stuff is sensitive, where we put things like title and role. All that other stuff is in our analysis spreadsheet that I shared, that template that we discussed with the internal PM team only. This will be published to everyone. Okay, so you're going to list all your stakeholders here one by one. And you're just going to keep adding rows. The next is where you're going to talk about the communication cadence or the meeting cadence. And this is where you might say, well, this is my daily huddle. And in my daily huddle, I'm going to have John, Jack, and Jane. All right, this is a huddle. This is a huddle video call. The content might be 15-minute stand up or less. The link might be a link to the shared space in which you guys share files. It might be a link to the video call invite. It might be a link to more important information. Weekly might be John, Jack, and Jane plus additional stakeholders. The method might be in person in the conference room on the 42nd floor. The content might be, this is a 30-minute meeting or less, and then the links is the same. This might be the bi-weekly sprint planning or sprint retrospective or review meeting. This might be the monthly business review, the quarterly planning. You might have something here for 6 months before you do yearly, ad hoc, etc. This is where everything is going to be clear. Now, in addition to making sure that you send your invites from your stakeholder analysis template to ensure that no one is missed, and making sure that you have an individual conversation with each of your stakeholders first before you have these meetings, as time progresses, 3, 6, 9 months down the line, if someone isn't sure, if they get busy, if someone new gets on board, instead of having to go through all that rigmarole and explaining and walking them through everything, you can start to have artifacts that you maintain that you can send people to. So if Jack was new, you can say, hey, Jack, I'm going to have Sally on our team walk you through our Confluence page. And one of the key pieces of information is our stakeholder communications plan. And that way, you know the meetings that we would love it if you attend and the meetings that you're more than welcome to attend, but you don't need to based on your availability. And that will save everyone tons of time. Another benefit or outcome of this page. If you wanted to keep a rolling list of open actions, you could do that here. And you can see this is a tick box list, which makes it very easy to see when things are completed. In my personal opinion, I tend to take the open and then have a whole nother section for closed, and that closed one is expandable and collapsible. If you're not familiar on how to edit Confluence pages or the new whiteboarding feature or setting this stuff up or you want it to look sharp or presentable, please feel free to give me a call, reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to get you set up with this stuff. It shouldn't take more than a quick 25-minute call. But the purpose of having all the closed items separately in an expandable, collapsible way is it's very neat. And then everyone can see just what's open. The @ symbol that they're suggesting here, you could say something like @Mark to schedule and facilitate the quarterly business review. And then everyone would know that Mark would be responsible for that. And certainly Mark would know because when we do the @ symbol, it's going to send him an alert. And once again, if you are linking this with your Jira, which I recommend, all of this can be tracked in Jira. So in addition to having this page track it, which is a good way of doing it, you can have everything tracked inside of Jira, inside of your project plan. And then here is just more information for tips on ways that you can use this plan. I've covered most of the tips for you, but you can repurpose this information box to say, these are key pieces of information for our stakeholders for this particular project or product rollout. Okay, so once again, very quickly taking this from the top, this is the part 2 video for our stakeholders. The first one was on the stakeholder analysis, which contains sensitive information such as influence level that you want to plot out in a matrix so you ensure that those stakeholders that want a high level of influence and a high level of engagement, they are front and center on your radar and you are taking care of them. The stakeholder communications page can contain all of that information except for the sensitive information. And the stakeholder communications page, one of the goals is to foster trust and transparency with all your stakeholders so they know exactly who they are, what their preferences are, that's listed right here. They can change their mind on their preference as time moves on. You can update it right here, and they know exactly where they are supposed to be and when they are supposed to be there, and it's all listed here. As always, guys, have a little bit of grace with these things. Don't treat it like gospel, black and white. Most of your stakeholders are not going to be 100% allocated to your particular project or product rollout. So, for example, John might be working 25% on project A, 25% on project B, et cetera, et cetera. And so there are going to be times where people will reach out to you and let you know, I know I'm responsible to be on the monthly or biweekly, but I can't attend this session. And that's okay. Just get coverage where coverage is necessary. You want to be flexible with these things, but not flexible to the point where you don't have structure. You want to make sure the structure is in place. And then lastly, you have your open actions, a expandable and collapsible for everything closed. So if people want to see all the progress you made, they're more than happy. They can look at that there. And then the summary of the open actions using the at, which will give them an alert. And so the alert will help to remind people of what they're responsible for. And then having this bi-directionally integrated into your overall Jira plan so that as you update this here in the example I use, Mark's responsible for facilitating and send the materials for the quarterly business planning, that would then automatically get updated inside of Jira when I import it. Another additional feature here is if you have the full version of Jira and you have their AI assistant Rovo, as you continue to build out these pages for your product or your product rollout, you can ask it very simple questions such as, can you give me a summary of everything that John is working on? It'll scan through all those different pages in your project plan or your product rollout, and it will find John and it'll return all of that for you in a nice summary so that you don't have to try to go through multiple pages or multiple at symbols. It can also do things for you like help you prepare reports. So an additional feature or benefit here is once you have this structure in place and you're using something like Rovo, which is the AI assistant, it will help you to synthesize large amounts of data. All right, guys, I hope you found value in this. I find tremendous value in sharing this. I find this keeps me organized. This saves me time in my mind. It helps me to do things faster. And all of the stakeholders appreciate when we do things like this. I've seen these stakeholder communication pages get very fancy. And as time moves on, you can certainly do things that are more complex with your Confluence pages. Like I said, if you want to do more advanced things, please feel free to reach out to me, or if you just want to help get this stuff set up, I'm more than happy to do that. But this initial template is more than enough to get you started. And believe me, everyone will appreciate the organization because not only does it save you time and mental capacity, but it saves everyone else time and gives them a level of comfort that they are in good hands. Thank you guys again so much for the time. Remember to hustle harder. Remember to hustle smarter. And with all your heart, let's talk again soon. Bye-bye.